Our top story now, an unprecedented scenes in the national capital as the Yamuna, swollen with water from Himachal and Uttarakhand, has overflowed its banks and entered key roads. Colonies even moved right up next to the Red Fort. Traffic was a nightmare today as several roads, including the outer ring road, were flooded and some sections of the metro also had to be closed. The Delhi Chief Minister asked people of Delhi to stay home and opt for work from home. Schools and colleges have been closed. Thousands have lost their homes in Old Delhi, Mayur Vihar and Yamuna Bazaar.
मैम, आपको भी अभी रेस्क्यू किया है एनडीआरएफ ने, तो आपकी पूरी फैमिली क्या बाहर आ गई या अभी भी कुछ लोग हैं?
फैमिली पूरी बाहर।
तो आप, आपके हस्बैंड और आपके बच्चे सब आ गए?
हाँ जी।
तो आप कितने साल से मैम यहाँ रह रही थी?
मतलब 10-12 साल से तो मैं रह रही हूँ। पहले से हमारे सास ससुर रहते थे यहाँ पे।
जी। तो पिछले भी आपने बाढ़ देखी होंगी, आपके सास ससुर ने भी देखी होगी? इतना नहीं है।
हाँ।
तो कल यहाँ पे पानी कितना था? क्या कल तो थोड़ा सूखा था?
कल पानी था ही नहीं यहाँ पे। सुबह आया 4 बजे बाद।
बिल्कुल सूखा था?
हाँ जी।
पानी था ही
नहीं।
आपके बच्चे भी हैं? कितने साल के हैं?
एक 12 साल की, एक 10 साल की।
दोनों आपके साथ हैं अभी? तो अब आप लोगों ने क्या सारा सामान ले आए हैं? कुछ
सब छोड़ दिया यहीं पे।
सब पीछे हो गया, कोई बात नहीं।
तो काफी नुकसान हुआ होगा?
हाँ जी, सारा सामान डूब गया पानी में।
तो
जो थोड़ा बहुत था वो बचाया है, बाकी सब डूब गया।
पर क्या हमेशा ये खतरा रहेगा कि ये हो सकता है, अगले साल भी हो सकता है, फिर से हो सकता है?
पहली बार हुआ है।
ये 78 में इतनी बाढ़ आई थी जी, इसके बाद ये पहली बार ऐसा हुआ है कि इतना पानी आया है यहाँ पे। नहीं, जमुना बाजार में आज तक हमने ऐसा पानी देखा नहीं।
The situation we are witnessing in the national capital is absolutely unprecedented. As we speak, the Yamuna River is flowing at 208.62 meters, which is 3 meters above the danger level. And this after Haryana's Hatnikund barrage kept releasing water into the Yamuna River. And now, as a result, many parts in the national capital are witnessing excessive flooding. Yamuna has overflown into the streets of the national capital, and that's why 16,500 people as of now have been evacuated, most of which were farmers who were living alongside the bank of Yamuna River on the floodplains. Now, as you can see, the families are forced to live on the streets now, and this is all they could save when their house started to get flooded day before yesterday. We'll try and speak to some of these women who are sitting on the streets with their kids. माता जी, आपसे बात कर सकती हूँ 2 मिनट? आप लोग कहाँ रह रहे थे?
गंगा सागर में।
यमुना के तरफ रह रहे थे? कब से रहते थे वहाँ?
बहुत दिन से रहते।
कितना हो गया, कितना साल हो गया?
हमें तो कम साल है भैया, हमारी दीदी का 20 साल है।
20 साल से आप लोग वहाँ रह रहे थे, तो ऐसी स्थिति देखी थी कभी पहले?
ना,
कभी नहीं देखी
ना।
और यही बचा पाए बस, और कोई सामान नहीं ला पाए?
ना,
सब बह गया।
हाँ। सब कपड़ा, संदूक वगैरह, बैठ सब ले गो,
सब बह गया।
हाँ।
और ये कब हुआ है? आप लोग कब से यहाँ रह रहे हैं?
पिछली बार
आप लोग यहाँ कब आए हैं? यहाँ से यहाँ पे सड़क पे रहने में कब से मजबूर है?
उसे 4 दिन हो गए और हम आए कल आए।
4 दिन हो गया।
हाँ।
तो अभी बच्चे भी आप लोग के यहीं पे रह रहे हैं?
हाँ।
खाना मिल रहा है आप लोग को?
खाना तो मिल रहा है, वो लाइए रहे हैं, नाइयों ले रहे, बना रहे।
Now, on the other side of the road, which has been turned into a relief camp by the government, you can see that there is a line, there is a queue of women, people, kids who are trying to get food. सर, आप लोग जो ये भी सारा खाना बांट रहे हैं, इन लोगों को सरकार से मिल रहा है खाना? क्या आप ही लोग?
नहीं, कोई सरकार का कोई रोल नहीं है। दिल्ली सेक्रेटरी गुरुद्वारा कमेटी वालों सारा रोल है। 10,000 दी वस्ता था।
आप ही लोग रोज खाना देने आ रहे हैं?
हाँ, आप आ रहे, सुबह शाम दोनों टाइम आ रहे हैं।
सुबह शाम आ रहे हैं?
सुबह शाम दोनों, सवेरे 11 बजे।
अच्छा।
So why is the Yamuna flooding like this year, submerging large parts of North and East Delhi? Well, it's because of the record water flowing into the river from the heavy rain that's taken place in North India and Himachal and Uttarakhand, and also because of the encroachments on the floodplains.
Unprecedented floods in Delhi. Houses submerged in many parts. lives and livelihoods destroyed. The images from the national capital have shocked the country. So why is Delhi seeing such unseen flooding? This is Delhi, and this is the Yamuna River. The river runs a course of 22 kilometers through Delhi between Pala in the north and Jaipur in the south. Monastery Market, civil lines, these low-lying areas have been worst hit as the Yamuna breached the danger mark this week. And it's not just the areas close to the river that have suffered this time. Even Ring Road, that's the lifeline of Delhi, areas like civil lines that houses several VIPs have been inundated by raging and rising waters. Delhi saw its worst floods in 1978 when the Yamuna breached the 207-meter mark. This year, it's been worse. There are 10 embankments along the river to save the capital from such floods. Rural marginal embankment from Pala to Wazirabad, Jagatpur Band from Jagatpur to upstream of Wazirabad Barrage, Yamuna Bazar Band upstream of Old Railway Bridge, Yamuna Bazar Wall, Madanpur Khadar near Okhla, left forward Band which runs from the Delhi-Uttar Pradesh border up to Wazirabad, Shahadra Marginal from Wazirabad to Old Delhi Railway Bridge, left marginal Band from Old Railway Bridge to Noida, Pa House Band, Mughal Band. These bands prevent its waters from flooding the capital when Yamuna breaches its danger mark of 204.83 meters. But these safeguards failed as water rose to unprecedented 208 meters in the Yamuna. So why is the Yamuna seeing such high levels of water? On July 8th and 9th, Delhi received its heaviest rain in over 4 decades. But it didn't only rain in Delhi. Most parts in the north got heavy rain. This is Hatnikund Barrage in Haryana. As it exceeded its water retention capacity due to heavy rain in the hills, water was released into the Yamuna, as it is normally done every monsoon. Over 1 lakh cusecs of water was released per hour from the barrage, causing havoc in the capital. The Delhi government asked the centre to not allow any more discharge. But the Central Water Authority says that the barrage has limited capacity and excess water has to be released downstream. But water from the barrage into the Yamuna is only one part of the problem. Experts point out unbridled construction on the Yamuna floodplains, restricting area for the river to stretch itself. A number of unauthorized colonies and also mega structures dot the Yamuna bed in the capital. In Jaipur extension area, buildings are coming up just 500 meters from the river banks.
Now, the ring road itself is actually built on the Yamuna river bed. The entire floodplain has been under attack right from, say 2 decades. There has been constant pressure on the floodplain to be developed. Lots of infrastructure has now been built. Lots of flyovers and ring road extensions, etc. have been built. Many more bridges have been built across the river, all of them slowing down the flow of water.
Bureau Report, NDTV.
So flooding in the national capital, while in Himachal Pradesh, people are picking up the pieces after the devastating floods. Schools and houses in Manali are full of slush and sediments, and it's a long road to recovery there. Ankit Tyagi with this ground report.
These are teachers cleaning this school themselves. This is also one of the classrooms which is being cleaned. This was filled with slush, which is being cleaned at this moment. आप यहाँ पे ही पढ़ाते हैं, टीचर हैं आप यहाँ पे?
हाँ जी।
बड़ी मेहनत करनी पड़ रही है आपको क्लीन करने के लिए।
तब अब क्या करें, मजबूरी की हालत में तो ऐसा ही करना पड़ेगा, गंभीर स्थिति है, क्या करें? अब कुछ ना कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा। थोड़े से पेरेंट्स बुलाए हैं हम लोगों ने, हमारी हेल्प कर रहे हैं, हम लोगों के लिए बहुत है।
वापस आना है स्कूल पर जल्दी पढ़ने के लिए?
हाँ जी।
How in 1 minute life changes. कैसे एकदम लोगों की जिंदगी बदल जाती है। आपका सर घर था यहाँ पे?
हाँ जी, मकान था।
क्या नाम है सर आपका?
खीमचंद है मेरा नाम।
भीमचंद जी। खीमचंद जी।
जी।
कितनी उम्र है सर आपकी?
अब मेरी हो गई जी 73 साल।
73 ईयर्स
जी।
कहाँ था सर घर? जरा दिखाना जरा अपना, मैं एक बार इधर दिखा
ये जो ये पत्थर नहीं है,
वो पत्थर जो है?
हाँ जी, जो बड़ा पत्थर है, बस यहाँ से था यहाँ तक था पूरा।
उस दीवार तक?
हाँ जी, इस दीवार तक था यहाँ।
पूरा घर गया आपका?
हाँ जी, पूरा बह गया हमारा जी। हमने तो कुछ भी नहीं निकाल दिया, यही कपड़े निकाल दिए हैं बस, और कुछ नहीं है।
जो शरीर पे कपड़े हैं
बस जी
यही बचा पाया आप?
बस यही बचे पाए, बाकी कुछ नहीं निकाल दिया। उतने में आ ही गया, बाढ़ फटाफट आई है, क्या करना। खाने पीने का साधन कुछ नहीं है, हम तो ऐसे ही है, कपड़े वगैरह ऐसे ही है जी।
आंटी आप भी आ जाओ उधर।
हाँ जी, ऐसे ऐसे हाल है, क्या किया है।
आपकी वाइफ है?
हाँ जी सर।
95 में भी बाढ़ आई थी यहाँ?
हाँ जी,
तब आप लोगों का बच गया था क्या?
तब तो बच गए थे, अभी तो सारा ही चले गया, कुछ भी नहीं निकाला ही नहीं, कुछ भी। खाने पीने का सामान भी खत्म, कपड़े भी खत्म, कंबल रजाई वगैरह सारा ही खत्म।
Well, to talk more about the extreme rain that we've seen in North India, the freak weather and the impact it's had on our towns and cities. You saw that devastation in Himachal Pradesh, also the flooding that we're currently seeing in Delhi. We're now joined by environmentalist Sunita Narayan. Sunita, the excess rain in Himachal, then these floods that we're currently experiencing in Delhi, all these events are linked to the rising temperatures, and we're going to be seeing more of these extreme weather events.
We have encroached on the floodplains. We have not provided for drainage in our cities. Yamuna today has no holding capacity. We do not have the right information system so that the dams that are built, how they will release the water, that's our issues. Now, on top of it, and I think that's why we need to be aware why we cannot afford to keep making these mistakes. We now have the revenge of nature. We now have climate change playing a role. That what was in a once in a 5-year incident is becoming a once in a year incident. And that's really what climate change is about. Now, this is why what we talk about climate resilient infrastructure, that is something that we cannot just keep talking about. We need to implement it.
Right, and now a lesson also for the kind of development that we undertake in the fragile areas like Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Even if we are building roads there, maybe we don't need to build these 4-lane highways.
We need this debate not to become a development versus environment issue. We do need development in the Himalayas. We need roads in the Himalayas. We need connectivity in the Himalayas. We do need hydroelectric plants in the Himalayas. The question is, and that's what you mean by climate resilient infrastructure. That's what you mean planning for the ecosystem. You need to make sure that the roads that you build are built keeping in mind the fragility of the Himalayas. It's done in other parts. Remember, Himalayas are the world's youngest mountain range. They are the most seismic. They are the most vulnerable. So you need to do even 10x more to protect the Himalayas than you would in even, say, the Alps. And that's really what the biggest challenge is today. We have good engineers. I'm sure they can do this, but then it'll cost. And that's why I would then need to say, okay, which are the roads that are most critical, and those are what we invest in. Similarly, when it comes to hydroelectric plants, you do need hydroelectric plants, but you don't need to build them back to back as you're building them today. You need to make sure that you don't re-engineer the river. You have to make sure that you optimize on the river flow. You plan for the Himalayas, keeping in mind that climate change will make the world's youngest mountain range even more vulnerable. You don't build your houses on the floodplains of your rivers. You don't take up, you need a master plan to be implemented, that you don't build on the fragile slopes of the Himalayas. So, you know, it's not rocket science, Gargi. We know this.
All right, Sunita, thanks so much for joining us on NDTV. Let's move on to other news now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Paris on a two-day visit to France. He arrived there earlier today, and tomorrow morning he'll join the Bastille Day celebrations, where he is the guest of honor. The visit will also firm up crucial defense deals and deepen the India-France strategic ties. Let's go across to Vishnu Som now, who joins us from there. Vishnu, tell us about the Prime Minister's program currently. He's also met with the President of the Senate.
Yeah, that's right. He's met with the leader of the Senate here in Paris. There'll be a diaspora event where, we'll see another Modi show. That will be a couple of hours from now. Then there'll be very important bilateral talks. Finally, he's going to sit down for dinner with the President, President Macron. This is where the Prime Minister is actually staying. He's staying in this hotel. But what I can tell you is that this visit very, very important, because just shortly before the Prime Minister arrived, the Defence Acquisition Committee of the Ministry of Defence cleared the process of negotiations for India to eventually get into a contract for 26 Rafale fighters for the Indian Navy and 3 additional submarines. So this is obviously a very important part of India's naval sort of posturing in, or naval defences in the Indian Ocean region. The Rafale M, very important because of its capabilities. That's also likely to come up. Tomorrow is going to be obviously the very big day, Bastille Day, the French National Day. Several hundred Indian soldiers over here. They'll be marching down Bastille Day. It is a rare honour. It's the second time, I believe, that Indian soldiers have been accorded this. It'll be a tri-services marching contingent. Overhead there'll be Indian Rafale fighters which will be flying, and we already have a destroyer of the Indian Navy out at Brest presently. So that's what's going to be taking place tomorrow. So there is substance and there is symbolism in this visit.
That's right, Vishnu. Also, if you can talk about, we've seen President Macron, Prime Minister Modi have had quite a friendly relationship. They met several times. They met earlier this year as well. And today, the President will be hosting him in a private dinner.
That's right. So, we've seen Prime Minister Modi have this equation, or build up this equation, with several world leaders. He was hosted to a dinner in the White House just a couple of weeks back during the state visit to Washington, D.C. He will be having dinner with the French President today. I believe they'll be meeting tomorrow as well. Tomorrow, as this entire visit winds down, the Prime Minister will be visiting the Louvre as well, perhaps get a chance to see the Mona Lisa. But he will certainly be meeting President Macron one more time before he departs for Abu Dhabi, which is going to be the next phase of this particular visit. But absolutely, the two leaders have developed a very close relationship over the years, and that, I would suspect, has helped spearhead this relationship.
All right, Vishnu Som there reporting from Paris. The third Sherpas meeting under India's G20 presidency is underway at Hampi in Karnataka, and this is being chaired by India's G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant. There will be intense deliberations to co-author the leaders' declaration to be eventually adopted by the G20 leaders when the summit takes place in New Delhi. But will the wording around the Ukraine war remain a stumbling block? We spoke with Amitabh Kant.
You did emphasize on sustainable development goals and climate finance. Did you face any kind of resistance from some of the members? So
No, we've had a very positive and constructive response. The SDG action plan has earlier been discussed and finalized for 7-year period up to 2030 in the development ministerial meeting, and we are taking that forward in the Sherpa track. And even on climate action and climate finance. In fact, every country has stressed on that, and there's been a very, very positive response. The Indian presidency so far has received a very positive response on all its priorities, which had been spelled out by the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, earlier. And our presidency has been very, very inclusive, and as the Prime Minister has aimed at making AU a member of G20. Our presidency has been very decisive, it's been very action-oriented, and it's been very ambitious. And we hope to achieve a very good and positive and constructive result.
Are Indian negotiators hopeful that contentious issues like the Ukraine conflict would actually be resolved?
So we are discussing all developmental issues, ambitious issues on development of SDG, of growth, inclusive growth, of multilateral institutions, of accelerating SDG implementation of women-led development here. We are not getting into issues. At this stage, that's not an important issue for us.
So by the end of the 3-day affair, will that be resolved, sir?
Most of the ambitious and developmental issues will be resolved.
So nothing on the Ukraine then?
That's not an important issue at this stage for us.
News of the markets now. In the Sensex today hit its lifetime high of 66,064. The Nifty reached an all-time peak of 19,567. However, bank and auto stocks then dragged in the second half and ensured that the overall gains remained marginal at close of markets. Experts say investors are upbeat on consistent FII inflows. News from Patna, where today one protester was killed during a lathi charge. This after the BJP undertook a protest march in Patna from the Gandhi Maidan to the assembly. The police, this march was earlier known about, so the police too were prepared to stop the protesters, and they used tear gas, water cannons and even lathis to prevent the BJP workers from marching forward towards the Bihar assembly. The BJP protesting against corruption and the government doing away with the domicile requirement for recruitment of teachers. And you can see NDTV's Manish Kumar, as he was reporting, also was drenched by the water as he was caught between the protesters and the police. Heavy security had been put in place to prevent the marchers from moving forward.